Let's welcome Sampo Karjalainen.
Hello, everyone. Let's see if this works. So first, a bit about myself, my background. So I studied Habbo about 10 years ago together with Aaltoes Kyrölä. And nowadays, I'm not anymore involved in the everyday business of Habbo and Sulake, but I'm a member of the board, so I'm kind of involved. Lately, I've been working on some new ideas, most recently on this mobile app that is supposed to make exercising, everyday exercise, a bit more fun. But today, I'd like to talk about one specific way of looking at games. The idea is to frame games as tools. So this is kind of an experimental idea. It's not maybe something that you have, maybe not the most useful way of looking at as an entrepreneur, but I think there is some value, and I want to talk about this at this time. The idea is that games can ease or solve people's problems in their everyday lives. I'm not talking about therapy games or things like that. I want to look at some of the most popular games today and see what type of role they have in people's lives. So this is one lens, and it's very much kind of influenced by Jane McGonigal's great book, The Reality is Broken. It's also related to my background, which is a kind of design background, especially interaction design that I'm interested in. So the core claim is that games solve, or at least ease, some problems in people's lives. The more they kind of ease their lives, the more valuable it can be. So let's start with the easy stuff. Like, games are usually seen as entertainment, as something fun. It's something that fixes the problem of being bored. And this is exactly what happens when you are waiting for a plane and bored, and then you fire up Angry Birds, and it delivers. It really engages you in that moment when you shoot that bird with a slingshot. When it's traveling in air, you're completely fixated to what's happening, and it really turns that boring moment into something very engaging. After it hits the structures, you go back and think about your tactics and play it. And it's a really great solution to that problem in that situation. Completing levels and progressing in the game is very kind of gives an important emotional experience as well. And it applies to all kinds of casual and social games. For example, if we look at Cityville, there is a lot of work that you need to do in Cityville. But it's fun work. It's kind of satisfying work what you're doing when you're clicking and building things and collecting money for hours, for days, for weeks. It's kind of a very satisfying experience when you you understand clearly what are the goals, what are the tasks, how are you progressing, and it can be something that you can't get from your real life every day, especially in your work life. So I think it may be one reason why these social games have become so popular among middle-aged people, that these are able to give these experiences of really satisfying work, of getting things done. It doesn't only apply to social games. For example, in World of Warcraft, there is this grinding and these quests that you do, and there is the same element, that you have a clear idea what's the goal, you go and do it, and you feel the sense of getting things done. Sense of progressing in the game. In World of Warcraft, there's also, of course, the social value, the social connection. It's a shared social context where you play the game. Most of the time, you kind of probably play independently, but you can also form these guilds and play together. And that experience of connecting to new people, especially if you have a kind of a deficit of social connections in real life, can be truly valuable for lots of people. And even for people who have a lively social lives, they enjoy the social experience of sharing stories together, playing together, accomplishing things together. Which brings to one more element in World of Warcraft, is the overall success, the feeling of being successful, the epic win that you get when you complete something alone or together. And that's also a very valuable experience that people get out of games. They may sometimes fail, but there is always a kind of sense of optimism when you play the game, that I'm able to do this, I can win, And that's also something that may be a bit more difficult sometimes in real lives. If we jump to Habbo Hotel, Habbo Hotel is for teenagers. It's more like a playground, not really a game. The social element is very strong. It really helps teenagers. If they feel a bit lonely, they can make new friends in this environment, and that can be very valuable. Another thing is the possibility to experiment with their identity. When they're kind of growing up, transitioning from childhood to adulthood, they can experiment with their identity in this environment in a safe manner. They don't know yet who they are going to be, but they can try it here very safely. They also have a place where they can practice their independence. In their real lives, they may still live at home and feel kind of that they are limited by their parents in certain aspects. But in this environment, they can really try their own independence, decide about their own environment and who they meet there and what they do there. And one more thing that we have learned from Habbo is that all teens, they crave for respect and attention from their peers. And this is something that Habbo can deliver. And if we manage to deliver these experiences to teenagers, they will be very happy users of Habbo. They are willing to pay for it, and some of them stay even for years in the service because they emotionally get so much value out of this experience. So these were some examples of what type of value games can deliver. There are other two, maybe even undiscovered ones. And the best way to kind of see it is to go really close to the users, the players, use kind of empathy and do qualitative research, dig deeper, try to understand players maybe even better than they understand themselves. And if you're a kind of visionary entrepreneur, you can kind of when you play games, you can kind of try to inspect yourself. What's the real emotional value that I'm getting out of these games? So in games, of course, the theme and storyline and graphics and all those things have a role, but I think it's these deep psychological reasons why some games become so sticky. And if we frame games this way as a kind of tools, as kind of solutions to some problems, it also helps to connect games to some of the popular startup methodologies. For example, if we look at Eric Ries's the lean startup approach, which is all about learning very quickly, about validating your hypotheses and assumptions very quickly. One of the core things there is to validate the value hypothesis of your product, that what is the true value that your product is bringing to users. And I think with this approach, it's easier to theorize about the value. Lean Startup is built on the customer development by Steve Blank, and this has been a bit difficult to kind of apply to games and entertainment because it comes from kind of B2B world. But if you frame games as kind of solutions to some problems, it's much easier to do the kind of customer problem solution matching in the customer discovery phase. And one more way to think about disruptive innovation is this Clayton Christensen's Innovator's Dilemma and Innovator's Solution, where the kind of main point is that you shouldn't really look at the existing kind of market segments or existing customer demographics. You should kind of look at what type of jobs to be done people have, what type of problems they have, and then relentlessly focus on delivering solutions to those problems. So in this sense, I think game designers and game developers can fix people's problems. Problems like being bored or stressed, hopeless, depressed, or something else. So these are kind of tools that help or ease people in their everyday lives. But the intention to deliver something like this is not enough. You really need to have good practical ideas, great game mechanics, tight feedback loops, and brilliant execution. This only is not enough, but it's kind of what you're trying to do. So to summarize, I think the value of looking at games this way is kind of threefold. The first is that it helps you understand the market in other terms than the industry categorizations or technologies or even demographics. It focuses on the needs of people, and if you are able to deliver solutions to those needs, then it's built on kind of very stable needs that can last for decades. The other thing is that it can be a good way to search and find new areas where games industry can expand. There are new kinds of games being created. The whole gamification and gameful design movements are affecting the kind of turning all kinds of activities into game-like experiences. So I think with this thinking, you can brainstorm or do your strategy work so that what type of new type of game experiences you could deliver. And the last thing is that it helps you see the kind of bigger meaning of your company. How your games change the world, or how do you want them to change the world? Whether you want it or not, it will somehow affect the world. And if you think about it, you can mold it, and you can build a kind of a long-term mission for your company, what you're wanting to do with it. So that's the three things, and go and build meaningful games. Thank you.